Hey, this is Lucas and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to continue on the topic of how our civilization as we know it is changing forever. Everything from your money, religion, your life, your death, how we're born, how we die, all of this stuff is being totally changed and wiped away from history. And today I'm going to be talking about your money and how money is actually going to be changed forever. Like I said before, it's not going to be changed for the first or for a couple years during a lockdown. Like we've seen some of these changes taking place. These changes are going to last for the next 1,000 years. So imagine if the kings in the old days, we've seen these crazy kings and how much of tyrants they were. So imagine if the kings in the old days had magic power to know everything you had and the ability to take any amount of taxes that they wanted at any time, and there was no way to hide the little bit of wealth that you had. Let's say that you were a peasant and you just worked your guts out cutting down a wheat crop all day long. You worked, I got up, and at the crack of dawn, you got out, you cut down a bunch of wheat and you were paid a little bit of silver. And instead of paying tribute to the king through taxes, maybe you just took that money and you got a jar, dug a hole and hid it. You put your silver in that jar, you dug a hole and you hid it. But maybe you went out for a week and you came back in a month or so and you dug your jar up to use it, but it was gone. Just vanished from your jar. This is where we're headed to soon. And this is just the beginning of the power that the elite will have over us if these CBDCs, and for those who don't know, the CBDCs are central bank digital currencies, which are going to be basically digital dollars. So if these digital dollars start being issued by governments and used by the people, this is also why they must keep you poor, so you will openly accept this new form of currency. Also imagine if the king would have the ability to monitor your every move that you had with your money. So, this is a lot of the way that the elite will keep you from, just challenging their power. But either way, let's imagine a king would have the ability to monitor your every move with your money trail. This is where we're going. They're going to be able to know every dime you spend, where you spend it, how you spend it. Okay. And sooner or later, they're going to ban cash. Gone will be the days of hiding your money under your mattress, away from the king. So we saw back in 2020 and 2021, government started hinting at banning cash because it would transfer sickness or viruses like COVID around. That was their thing. They were saying you would touch it, it would spread germs, get people sick. This will happen either because the banning of cash will either happen because of health risk of dirty money or because of climate change. They will say that it will be better to stop the production of physical money because of the CO2 used by the process of making physical money. We know that climate change has been the reason for most of the dystopian laws that they've tried to pass in the last few years, that and the COVID pandemic. Imagine soon you will never be able to hide or save a little bit of cash under the bed, pay someone to watch your kids or dogs sit for you, and have those transactions be anonymous cash transactions out of the reach of the government. How about rummage sales, friendly poker games? Maybe you want to loan your friend some money. All of these transactions will be known and they'll be taxed. Imagine everything you buy and every store you go to, whether brick and mortar or online, will be watched in real time, and any unsatisfactory behavior will automatically be punished by the issuance of fines that are instantly pulled from your digital wallet. How about you want to go buy a cigar or buy yourself some junk food? All of these transactions will be logged into the blockchain, and then companies will have access to this information. Imagine when your insurance company sees that you've been buying some cigars or junk food. That will be their excuse to raise your insurance. It's just another tax. They're telling you now that these transactions will be private, but we've seen over the last 40 years that none of our information is private, whether it's financial or medical. It has all been sold to the highest bidder so they can get more money out of you. And the digital ID goes hand in hand with the CBDCs because they will tie your identity. And usually this identity is used with biometric information. Like you'll put your eyeball scan in or whatever. So that will be your identity. And all of those and your identity will be tied in to all the CBDC transactions. Now, right now, cash and gold are the only two truly private forms of money. And those behind Bitcoin and other cryptos, which now we're finding out that the government probably helped start Bitcoin. Well, Bitcoin and other cryptos have been marketed as untraceable and just private. But we know in reality that Bitcoin, meme coins, any crypto is not private. It's not untraceable. It's just been a way that corporations and governments can get you conditioned in order to accept the CBDCs. We know now that, like I said, that all these cryptos are fully traceable and can be blocked or reversed. Now, I don't want to ramble too long because I want to play some clips of people that are smarter than me and have you listen to what they're saying about digital money. And remember that if these CBDCs happen and physical money is banned, it will not be temporary. It will be for the next 1,000 years. Because generations will forget what physical money was and the benefits of physical money. And also, before I play these clips, remember that CBDCs can be programmable. Let's say, for an instance, that you are issued a stimulus check or you get paid from work. When this money goes into your digital wallet, if it is not spent, well, they can program it that if it's not spent in a certain amount of time, then maybe you lose 10% of your money. If it's not spent in another amount of time, maybe another 10% comes out. It becomes worthless over time if you don't spend it, because they don't want you to save and create wealth. If you create wealth, you'll buy your own house and you won't need to rent one from the state. So I'm going to play these for you, and remember that this will be forever.
If we accept the fact that a QR code grants us access to society, what makes you think that they won't link that to anything else except for your vaccination status? What if that green screen on your phone that grants you access to society turns red the moment you take a flight too many, or you eat meat too much, or you didn't recycle your plastic yesterday? How dare you? What if that green screen on your phone that is linked to your digital wallet that's filled with nothing more but, I'm going to say it, central bank digital currencies, will turn red the moment you say something that the government classifies as hate speech? What if they can turn off your life at the push of one button? If they can do it in China, they can do it here. Ladies and gentlemen, freedom that is limited to those who do and say exactly what the government wants them to do and say is no freedom. It's imprisonment dressed up as freedom. And we need to see it for what it is. If we want to turn this around, that is. We need to wake up. We need to speak up. We need to say no, draw a line, and disobey these laws.
I'm hoping people wake up enough to at least slow it down. Because these people are pushing in a very obvious and very specific direction. They want digital currency, centralized digital currency that they control, and they want to get everybody on a social credit score system. They'll probably connect it to some sort of a vaccine app, or if you want to travel around, all they would need is another pandemic to try to push that shit through. And they're already talking about that. It's very spooky. The whole thing is so scary because it was effective. It was effective and very, very financially effective. I mean, they made a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
And if they could do something similar again and then clamp down more on people, that's what scares me. This talk of centralized digital currency, that's what they have in China. If you fuck up in China and you get a bad social credit score because you tweeted something they didn't like, now you can't buy a plane ticket. Now you can't buy a car.
Yeah.
Now you can't get a loan. Now you can't do something. You step the fucking line, and people self-censor because they don't want to be a part of that. Now they got you.
I want to ask you if you believe that the collapse is orchestrated in order to bring in central bank digital currencies. And do you think, you mentioned a timeline to me before that was anywhere from 2 months to 3 years. What are the realistic steps that you think they'll take to get us there?
So the system is going to collapse of its own weight. And if you know that it's going to collapse, wouldn't you like to introduce a system where you're in control of the new system? So that's what I believe is going on. They can't, a lot of people say, are they doing this on purpose? Well, it was going to happen anyways. So, and if it's going to happen, wouldn't you like to control it on the way down and get rid of the regional banks and make the banking system very consolidated into 6 big banks in the U.S., so that then it would be a lot easier to introduce a central bank digital currency. And so banking becomes like a utility, pretty much owned by the government and linked to the central bank digital currency. And then from there, once the central bank digital currency is linked to all your credit cards and bank accounts, then social controls can be implemented. You can't have, if you're a dissenter like me talking about truth, they shut you down. They just shut off your account. If they decided that cow farts are a big thing and they don't want you to eat meat, you'll have a quota. You go to the cash register and you try to ring up your meat, and then the woman at the cash register says, it won't let me ring you up. That's the kind of control, end-to-end control. It is literally a prison planet, so to speak.
The only time in my life I've ever seen a central banker be 100% honest. It's quite remarkable. They're trying to put into place a digital transaction control grid, which will tell you what you can do with your money, when you can do it, where you can go. If they don't want you to be able to use your money more than 5 miles from your home, that's it. Your money will turn off 5 miles from your home. If they decide they want to double taxes, they just take it out of your account. You know, it's all taxation with absolutely zero representation. And the interesting thing about it, once they get the system into place, it won't even be, I believe it won't even be your national central bank that will control. It will be the Bank of International Settlements and the global systems that will control.
If the government were ever to digitize currency, your freedoms would evaporate. They could zero out your bank account and make you impoverished for being disobedient. You would be a serf at best. And with that in mind, you should know that central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are about to become the norm in Europe. The president of the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, has just said that Europeans will not be able to use more than $1,000 in cash anymore.
Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the gray market. So you take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail.
So you go to jail for spending your own money if they don't control it. That's coming here. Tulsi Gabbard has spoken out against it. She, of course, ran for president, served in the House from Hawaii, and joins us now. Congressman, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Tucker.
This is so dystopian. You'd hate to think it could ever come here. You think it might?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is just the latest effort by those in power in our country who are intent on undermining and taking away our own freedoms and liberties. This central bank digital currency is about government-sanctioned surveillance and control. It's about them being able to keep track of every single thing that we purchase, whether it's a stick of gum or an automobile or anything in between. And so if they have all this information and data, which they will in this system, then where does that lead? It gives them the power to decide, okay, well, hey, we don't want to allow you to purchase certain things, or we may deem it necessary to freeze your overall account. Once we give up our economic autonomy, we no longer have freedom. Once we allow someone else to control our wallet, they then control our freedom.
Do you think people understand what this means? It'll be sold, as always, as an effort to push back against terrorism or international financiers or crime or whatever. But do people understand on a gut level what could be coming?
I don't think they do, and it's understandable, because if you listen to what the government is telling us, like with all of these other things, whether it's the Patriot Act or the Restrict Act, they're doing the very same thing with this, saying, hey, this is for your own good. This is for your convenience, to make it easier for you to conduct transactions, when in fact they are giving themselves all of the power, taking it away from us, undermining our God-given rights and freedoms in the Constitution, because they want to be able to control us. They want to be able to control we the people.
Joe Biden's White House put out an executive order last year saying that the administration puts the highest urgency on creating, deploying, and using a central bank digital currency. And of course, the Federal Reserve has been working on this. It's all being coordinated by the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. They've been working on this for years and years now. So the Fed now system that's being rolled out at the end of the month. That's one of the major components in the architecture of the CBDCs. But where this is eventually going, Allison, is they want to completely eliminate cash and have everybody use CBDCs so that everything can be tracked, everything can be controlled, and as the individual at the Summer Davos put it, these currencies can be programmable so that if you've already exceeded your carbon footprint, say, you won't be allowed to buy another steak or buy an airplane ticket or put gasoline in your car or maybe even heat your home. It's hard to overstate the danger of this. I mean, this is the most Orwellian tool for tyranny. And then when you combine it with the digital IDs, when you combine it with the surveillance, with the artificial intelligence that is now being developed, you realize they're building actually a prison planet, and we are the prisoners.
Yeah, we absolutely are. It's just so scary, and I can't even believe this is the world we're living in. But I'm so grateful that you're speaking out about this, and so many others too, to spread awareness. But it's so true. The goal here, the total goal, is just complete control over every aspect of your life. You'll never be able to save money, and your funds will be turned on and off based on your social credit score, which, as we all know, we're seeing the beginnings of right now. I mean, isn't the idea of the central bank digital currency hugely unpopular with the majority of Americans? And if people do resist this, do you think they can still push it through and force CBDCs to be implemented through maybe the destruction of blockchain solutions?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, there is no public support for this at all. I mean, how many people have you heard say, hey, I wish I had a central bank digital currency? It was a total non-issue for people, completely unpopular idea. And if people understood the implications, there would be not just no support for it, there would be maybe even an outright revolt. But what they hope to do is back us into a corner and force us to accept this. Again, eventually, I think they'll roll this out in parallel with cash. And after they get the bugs worked out, they'll start demonizing cash more and more. It's a tool for terrorists. It's a tool for white supremacists. It's a tool for tax cheats and drug dealers and pimps and things like this. In an effort to kind of stigmatize the use of cash, a lot can be done to resist this, and we must resist this. Because again, once the door on this cage shuts, it's not going to be opened again. We have to stop it.
So now you've got this CBDC that requires ID. So what's the big problem, Magic? What's wrong with that? Think about it. Every single transaction in your life that you will ever do and ever have done will be logged and registered on an open ledger, because that's what the blockchain is. But what CBDCs are is your national identity tied to a digital currency that will log every single one of your transactions forever. Because once it's on the blockchain, you can't erase it. And that gives you absolutely no anonymity. And the second concern is control, because this currency can be programmed. And when it's programmed, it means that it can be set by government and it can determine what you purchase and what you sell and what you buy. And so if you go back to Canada and what happened with the truckers' protests, you're on a list, you can be penalized, and of course, it's an incredible problem. So how do we make sure that our rights are guaranteed, even though this phenomenon is on the horizon and is coming at us anyway? And the answer there is we've got to make sure that we protect the off-ramp. Whatever that off-ramp is in the form of a decentralized digital currency that allows for you to trade without being traced and tracked, and without being controlled, we've got to make sure that that currency, that off-ramp, that decentralized version is protected. And it's no coincidence that countries around the world, led by China, but others as well followed them, are banning Bitcoin exchanges. So our responsibility becomes to protect the off-ramp so that there's a choice, so that you're not permanently involved in what is total slavery or serfdom, and you end up living like what looks like and feels like a black mirror. The head of the Bank for International Settlements is one Augustin Carstens. This is a direct quote from him about the difference between cash and central banking digital currencies. This is what he said. And this man is the head of the Bank for International Settlements. He said,
a key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that.
The central bank will have absolute control, surprise, surprise, absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability, and we will have the technology to enforce that. So they're looking for absolute control. I often say when people say something, believe them.
I also think this issue to do with the technology and the digital infrastructure, I just want to emphasize how important I think that is. Because in the end, you need the data. You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
The third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability. That is, CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program, to create smart contracts, to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized. For example, for food. So this potential programmability can help government agencies to precisely target their support to those people who need support.
And if you wouldn't care, please like and subscribe and share the videos. The whole point is to get all this information out there, try to wake people up to see what's going on. I appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next one.